If you give me the next 40 minutes, I'm going to share with you how to become a better public speaker by learning the 9 most powerful real-world lessons that I've had to learn the hard way as a professional speaker, as someone who's trained Fortune 500 companies, and someone who has worked with over 1 million people in the world. And by the end, I promise you, you will be a better communicator. See you on set.
By the way, I need to make this clear. Public speaking isn't just for people who speak on stage. Anytime you open your mouth in public, you are public speaking, whether you like it or not. The first and most powerful lesson, the 30-30-30-10 principle. Let me tell you all this right now. I never knew that there was such thing as a keynote speaker. A keynote speaker is essentially a professional speaker who gets paid to open, close conferences and also sometimes speak in the middle. I didn't realize that was actually a career path. And it's one of the most fulfilling career paths in the world, one of the most rewarding career paths from so many different aspects. And if I had to share with you the most potent piece of wisdom that I learned from that game and that chapter of life is that what you are selling as a professional speaker is you're selling a 1-hour experience. And what I realized is that within that 1 hour, you need the following ingredients. And I'll tell you how I did it wrong. When I first started, I thought it all had to be education. So then I put people to sleep. It was boring. And then I went, okay, well, let's over-index on entertainment now because I'm part magician. So then 80% of my keynote was magic tricks. And then people kind of went, wait, what? Is this a magic show? It's kind of weird. What? And then after that, I over-indexed. I watched Anthony Robbins. It needs to be inspirational. So I was pure inspiration. And then it just felt a bit nauseating because I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. And then what I realized is that it's not one and not the other. It's not the other and not this one. It's a combination of all of those things. So I worked out a percentage that was perfect. And when I got this percentage perfect, my career took off. It's 30% education, meaning really good content, okay? It's 30% entertainment. And this is when speakers hear this, they go, oh, I don't want to be an entertainer. No, but that's what you are. 30% of you is part entertainer. The most successful speakers who get paid the most, have the most thriving careers, their content is really good, but then they're also extremely entertaining. So 30% education, 30% entertainment, 30% inspiration. Now, inspiration is what? Inspiration is how you use your instrument, your voice, how you communicate. The number of times where I've been on stage where I talked about nothing inspiring, but at the end of it, people go, "Whoa, Vin, that was so inspiring. Thank you for giving the talk." And I just told them I didn't talk about anything inspiring, and then I understood, wow. Inspiration is the transfer of energy, the transfer of vibes. And depending on how I use my voice, I can make you feel a certain way. And hopefully right now, as you're sitting here, you're feeling good vibes or you're feeling a little bit inspired. If you're feeling that, that's because of the way I'm consciously using my voice. Now, 30-30-30, 90% so far. So for those of you who are thinking, what's the last 10%? That's your X factor. That's you bringing what makes you unique. And for me, that was a mixture of magic and the stories that I tell. When you look at my keynotes and you watch my presentations, there's humor in there that's based on the Asian culture, right? Which is unique to me in a sense. And then there's also the magic part of my path, right? So all of a sudden now, when you've got a great mix of 30% of content, an incredible 30% of entertainment, an amazing 30% of inspiration, and then you've also got what makes you you, oh my goodness, that is the ingredient. You've got education, you've got entertainment, you've got inspiration, and you've got the X factor. Really, really work on that. All right, lesson number 2 is mastering virtual communication. When it comes to live communication, especially when you're talking about Zoom, do you know what the most important piece of body language is when you're communicating virtually and it's live like this? What do you think the most important piece of body language is when you're communicating on Zoom? It's eye contact. The most important piece of body language when you're connecting with people through a live Zoom call and also when you're creating content is actually eye contact. Right now, you're probably feeling fairly engaged because it feels like I'm looking at you, right? Well, I'm looking at the camera. Whereas where do most people look when they are talking on Zoom? They're looking at themselves. Oh yes, you can't help it. You just think, I'm so sexy today. Look at my hair. Look how good I look. Damn it. That's my good side. That's clearly my good side. I've got to keep this side on when I'm talking. Don't show the ugly side, then show this side. And then we obsess over ourselves, right? So again, a big tip is that we need to learn a new behavior to be effective online when we're communicating virtually. And that new behavior requires us to look at the camera. And there's a wonderful little piece of plastic you can get, and it's called a plexicam. And if you use an external webcam, you can use the plexicam. It's like a little piece of plastic that hangs on your computer screen, and it allows you to put the webcam in the middle of your screen. What that does is it allows you to see the other person while you're looking at the camera. So all of a sudden, I can look at the screen the entire time. And this is way more visually engaging. So that's one thing for eye contact. So I'm going to give you a tip with body language. Now I'm also going to give you a tip with voice and your vocal presence. When people speak on live Zoom calls, sometimes people don't turn their cameras on. And when they don't turn their cameras on, do you know what their posture is like? They're like this. And when you're sitting like this, how do you sound? You sound really low energy. So you rock up to a call and you're like, yeah, hey everyone, welcome to the meeting for Q4. And yeah, it looks like it's great. We've got everyone here. I'm excited to take you through the Q4 numbers. And then you're just not engaged, right? So even if your camera's off, I highly encourage you to turn it on. Because when you turn it on, now all of a sudden you have to move, right? And people are so afraid of a monotone voice, they don't realize that a monotone voice comes from a monotone body. So the thing is, if you start to move your body more, naturally you're going to move your voice and you'll sound more energized. Now here's the crazy part. Even once you fix all of that, when you speak to a camera and when you speak to a laptop, this is a very unnatural environment. So this unnatural environment causes people to drop their energy levels by 50 to 70%. So normally you're fairly energetic when you're talking to other human beings. The moment you're speaking to a computer and other people on Zoom, you're sitting there in a room by yourself. So naturally you drop the energy. So all of a sudden, even if you're normally like this around other people, when you're around a computer, you just kind of go, well, if I do that, it's a bit too much. So I'll just drop it down. This feels a bit more natural. Because this is how you would talk to a computer, right? I mean, but no, you need to amp it up. And this is why my wife can never be in the same room while I'm doing a Q&A like this. Because she'll sit to the side of it. She goes, you're being so cringy. There's nobody in the room. Why are you doing that voice while you're showing cringy? It's even more cringy now that you're doing that, but it's gross. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. I can't handle it. So I can never have my wife in the room while I'm doing these Q&As, right? Because she feels weird doing it. Because she goes, it feels like you're being too much. No. If I was talking like this for the next 2 hours, you'd probably all leave. And I'll just have to hang out with Dan and another one of my team members here, Andy, and it'd be terribly boring because they're both very boring people. So, but you know what I mean? You would all just leave. So what you've got to understand is to be more effective in the virtual realm, you have to level up your energy. You have to. Otherwise, you're not able to hold other people's attention. And yes, this is harder. Yes, this takes more energy. Yes, this will make you feel exhausted. After this, I'm going to feel a lot more tired. I am. But I'm choosing to be impactful for you. I'm choosing to show up for you. And I do it for the people who are worth it. Do I do this for every single call? Maybe not, because I've got a limited amount of energy. But you believe in me as being your teacher to help guide you towards communication mastery. So I'm going to show up for you, right? Because it's way easier for me just to talk like this. Because I can talk like this for the next 3 days straight, probably. I'm choosing to amp up the energy. So number one, eye contact. Number 2, level up vocal presence. Inject more volume. Third thing that I'll share with you, take up space. Right now, I don't have the camera so that it's right next to my head, right? Sometimes most of us show up really close to the screen, right? You don't want to show up really close to the screen. I'm showing up like this, so there's so much space around for me to use my hand gestures. This makes me more visually dynamic. So while I'm talking to you, all of a sudden, I can use my hand gestures. Whereas if all you see is my head, then all you're going to see is this. You just see my head move as I get really passionate, right? But if you can see my hands, all of a sudden now I'm visually dynamic. Now I'm vocally dynamic. And now I'm giving you eye contact. Now I'm able to engage you and strengthen that connection.
Now, the next lesson is about the importance of playing with your voice as opposed to just using your voice.
What I'm currently doing that's creating that graceful feeling for you is that I'm playing with my instrument. I'm playing with all the different qualities that I have within my voice. I'm playing with my volume. I'm playing with my melody and pitch. I'm playing with my emotions, tonality. I'm playing with the pause. I'm playing with every single aspect of my voice. Whereas when you say that, oh, I feel like when I'm talking, I'm just talking. Well, it's because you're just not playing with your voice. You're not playing with all of the vocal features that you have access to. But I can tell you right now that most people feel weird about playing with their voice. Because why? They're scared of judgment. Because they go, oh, but if I do this, my friends are going to think I'm a try-hard. My friends are going to think I'm trying too hard. I'm not telling you to do this all the time. I'm telling you to do this when you need to be influential. I'm telling you to do this in high-stake moments where you need to actually play with your instrument so you are more influential. Right? Because, like I said to you, I can speak like this too. These are all just behaviors. And the behaviors we learn, and sometimes we repeat these behaviors for long enough to the point where we believe we are stuck. You're not stuck with your communication skills. It's just because you've been repeating a set of behaviors your entire life. For some of you, you've been repeating it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Some of you have been repeating the same behaviors of ineffective communication for 40 years. And because you've been repeating that behavior for so long, you now have tricked yourself into believing you are stuck. You're not. Yep, I can make that sound if I want to. It's not weird because I'm comfortable with it. And some of you, if you ever did that, you'd be like, I feel like dying inside. Why does my voice make that sound? I don't care. I'm going to play with my voice. I've got a beautiful instrument. You've got a beautiful instrument. And wouldn't it be a shame if you got to the end of this journey and all of this beautiful music lied dormant in you and it stayed trapped within you? But there are beautiful stories that you must share. There are beautiful visions that you must bring to life. There are beautiful gifts that you must share with the world. But until you learn how to play your instrument beautifully, your music gets ignored. Your talents go unseen. I could have said all of that in a way that's not beautiful, right? So again, I used my instrument deliberately while I said that to make you feel what I'm saying. Whereas so many people in this life only focus on making people hear what they say. So again, I could have said, wouldn't it be a shame if you get to the end of this life and you didn't play all of the beautiful music that you had access to, all the gifts and talents, all the dreams and visions the world's going to be able to miss out on because you didn't play it and do it justice. So I could have said the same thing, but you wouldn't feel it. You'd hear it, but you didn't feel it. One of my biggest values that I think makes me a great communicator, if I may say so myself, what an arrogant monster, is that I'm playful. And I think that's what makes people feel drawn to me, is that I'm playful with my communication. And I teach all of my students who decide to join me ever in person, or if you ever join one of my 5-week intensive classes or whatever, if you ever join me, right? You'll notice the thing about me and my entire team is that we're extremely playful. And that comes down to a fundamental belief that I have, and it's that there's no such thing as adults. Because I got to a point in my life where I looked at my parents, and when I was young, I looked at my parents as being the people who knew the answers to everything in life. Mum and dad knew everything. And then I got to a point where I got old enough where I went, oh, wow, it's so humanizing when I saw this. And I loved my parents even more when I realized this. I was like, oh man, mum and dad this whole time didn't know what they were doing. They were just working it out as they went. That's why sometimes they'd fail. That's why sometimes they did the wrong thing. That's why sometimes we got into arguments. It's because mum and dad are just working it out as they go. No one knows what they're doing. And then I started looking around at all of me. I went, no one knows what they're doing. Oh my goodness, right? And then I realized that, wow, what it means is we're all actually just big kids. We're just all big kids pretending to be adults. And then what then made me really sad, because then I went down the rabbit hole. And if we're all big kids, how sad is it that all of the little kids, they understand the value of play. But then all of us big kids, we've lost track of playing. That's why we no longer play with our instruments. That's not why we no longer play when we're communicating. Ew, that's disgusting. That's not right. That's not professional. But who are professionals? Who are your colleagues? Who are your clients? They're people. What are people? Big children. What do all children love to do, regardless of size and age? They love to play. And it's been one of the greatest unlocks I've discovered in communication, because the more playful I've become, the more of a magnet I've become. So I encourage you, reconnect with your inner child. And it makes life more fun. And for the short time that we're all here, let's enjoy it. Let's play with our instrument. Let's play with the body. Let's play with our instrument. Play with the way we communicate. Play with those we meet. Let's have fun. Of course, there are serious moments, but let's not make all of life serious. Let's be playful. Let's learn how to play again. Let's reconnect with our inner child.
Hey, just quickly, before I dive into the next lesson, so many of you tell me that you struggle with how to structure your thoughts. When you're put under pressure and asked the question, Vinh, I don't know what to say. I've recorded a free 2-hour training to help you solve just that, to teach you communication framework so that you're able to speak under pressure, you can answer questions impromptu, and you're able to communicate in a way that's clear, coherent, and concise. If you want access to that 2-hour training, just click the link in the description and you'll get access to it. See you in the training, or I'll see you back in the video.
Lesson number 4, let go of perfection. One of the things that make people really nervous before they go on stage or before they speak in a job interview is they have this expectation that they want to be perfect. And if that's the goal that you're after, if the goal that you're after is to be perfect, well, of course you're going to be nervous, because no one is perfect. So you're setting a goal that nobody can reach, including yourself. My goal is not to be perfect. My goal is to show up with as much energy as possible and add as much value as possible. So I think we've got to readjust that goal. It's not about being perfect. And as you readjust, I'm going to show up and add as much value to this person as I humanly can. That shifts the focus. Number 1. Number 2. When the error does inevitably happen, because it will happen, when it does happen, you must remember this rule from the world of theater. If you don't make a big deal out of it, they won't make a big deal out of it. If you make a big deal out of it, Now they are going to make a big deal out of it. Say, for example, while we're talking and my mic stopped working and then the technology around me failed or something. And I did this and I said, oh crap, this always happens. I'm so sorry, everyone. Far out. I knew this was going to happen. We should have spent more time prepping. I'm just extending my apologies to every single person who's here, all 162 of you. I'm so and then I make a big deal out of it. You're now never going to forget that moment. But if my mic stopped working and I just said, hey everyone, we're just going to take 30 seconds, reset the mic. We'll be back with you in just a moment. All right, and we're back. Look, what we're going to do now is we're going to take the next question from Marcin. And Marcin, if we can jump on now, let's connect on your question. Boom, straight into it. Don't lose a beat. No one will even remembered there was an error. Whereas what happens when we don't know how to deal with failure, plus we also have the expectation of being perfect, is the moment we get something wrong, we beat ourselves up immediately on the spot because you've over-indexed on being perfect. And then the second thing is you don't know the golden rule in theater. If you don't make a big deal out of it, they won't make a big deal out of it. Because here's the reality as well. They don't have your notes. They don't know what you were meant to be saying. They have no idea it was even wrong. The more you want to be perfect, the more nervous you're going to be, the more anxious you're going to be, and the more errors you're going to make. That's the craziest part about this. So go into it just thinking on different thing and just go, you know what? I'm going to add as much value to these 1,000 people as I can. And that's why I'm here. And here's the other thing it does. It takes the focus off you because we become more self-conscious when we're focusing on the self. When all of the consciousness is on the self, therefore you become more self-conscious by definition. But if you take all of that consciousness and you put it on the audience, you have no cognitive power to be self-conscious. Because all you're thinking about is the person you're serving. And that actually makes you a better servant. Lesson number 5, exposure therapy. When I first learned the art of communication and I taught my first class and I did Q&A, it was the scariest thing I've ever did. And it was weird because I knew the answers, but every time someone asked me a question, I'd freeze. I was like, what the frick? And then I'd just be frazzled. And it wasn't because I didn't know the answer, because you know that's a part of this answer. It was because I didn't know how to deal with my nerves, I didn't know how to deal with my anxiety, and I didn't know how to deal with my levels of stress. So what does that mean? That you need to understand, well, what situations trigger the nervousness, what situations trigger the anxiety, and what situations trigger the high levels of stress. You have to understand what those situations are. And then once you understand what those situations are, and you go, oh, okay, it's every time I do a job interview. Oh, okay, it's every time I meet new people. So then what does that teach you about the situation? It teaches you that you have to learn how to manage your levels of stress, anxiety, and nervousness. So how do you do this? Part of the answer, you're going to hate this. You're going to hate this. It's exposure therapy. Yep, you need to expose yourself to those situations more often. Because as you expose yourself to those situations more often, it will decrease the level of stress that you feel in that situation, decrease the anxiety, decrease the level of nervousness. I mean this. Imagine you find it really nerve-wracking to be able to meet new people. Well, that's because you don't meet new people often. Imagine you find it really difficult to go to networking functions and then go up and give your business card to someone. Well, that's because you never give your business cards to anyone. And then you're sitting there going, oh, Vin, I feel so nervous. Like you taught me a magic trick and then now you want me to go perform it to someone? Of course you're going to feel nervous. You've never performed magic before to strangers. But if you're like me and you performed magic to strangers more than 1,000 times, do you think I'm nervous? I'm not. Do you think I'm in a highly stressed situation when I'm performing magic? I'm not. Am I anxious? Nope. Am I stressed? Nope. Actually enjoying this quite a lot. Because I've done this more than 1,000 times. So you've got to give yourself a break. When you're not good at something and you feel high levels of stress and nervousness and high levels of anxiety, it's because you barely do that thing. Of course you should be nervous. Of course you should be stressed. You've never done it before. So in this situation, I'm going to make an assumption here, Min, that you know the answer in situations, but you go blank, right? So let's make it a generally applicable situation so it adds as much value to as many people as possible. Let's say for most of you, I feel nervous when I'm meeting new people. Cool. That means you're nervous around new people. Let's go through exposure therapy. What if I told you now that every single day you have to greet somebody new? And level 1 of the challenge is this. Level 1 of the challenge is you walk up to us, like you're just walking around in public during a day and you go, hey, morning. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. That's level 1. And say good morning to as many people as you can. Right? And then the first day you do it, you're like, it feels so gross. Why am I doing this? You do it for about a few days and you'll start to normalize that. Level 2 of the challenge. Now you have to say good morning to someone and then give them a genuine compliment. The genuine part, really critical. So now all of a sudden you walk around town, you look at someone, and the moment you look at someone, it takes them about 2 to 3 seconds. They're going to look back at you. So you look at them, they look at you, you smile, you say, hey, good morning. Hey, just wanted to say, I love the scarf you're wearing. It's beautiful. Have a good one. Leave. It's level 2 of the challenge. Do that for the next 5 days. Do that for the next 2 weeks. You decrease the level of anxiety slowly, slowly, slowly. Now you're no longer afraid. So now level 3 of the challenge is what? Greeting, compliment, ask a question. So again, you look at someone until they look at you without being a creep. And then once they look at you, smile. Don't keep looking without smiling, because that's when you move into creepy territory. So the moment they look at you, just smile and just say, hey, good morning. Hey, I just want to say how beautiful your I thought your handbag was so beautiful. I think it's lovely. It matches your outfit perfectly. Hey, quick question. I've never been to this part of the city. Could I ask you, where do you get the best cup of coffee? Thank you so much. Hey, have the most beautiful day. Go get your cup of coffee. That's it. And I tell you what, if you did this for the next 3 months, in social situations where you're meeting new people, you will feel very minimal levels of nervousness, stress, and anxiety, because you're desensitized to it now. I sat in the hotel lobby in New York, and I was about to do a keynote presentation. And because I get up really early, and rehearsals for keynotes are like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., right? So I'm sitting there in the hotel lobby at 5:30 a.m. And then I got to sit across from these window cleaners of a skyscraper for the hotel. And I remember leaning into the conversation, and all I said was, I just looked at him, I smiled, and I said, hey, good morning. And then I just said, it must be so scary up there. Oh, far out. You must shit your pants every morning. Inappropriate. But you know what? I'm a little bit inappropriate. And they laughed and they said, no, mate, nah. Mate, this is what, you think it's really scary. You call it a scary experience. You know what we call it? We call it a Wednesday, Vin. I just thought that was so funny, because they go up to level 90, right? And sometimes the wind blows them and they're blowing. I'm like, how are you not scared? And do you know what they said? Vin, do you know how long we've been doing this for? I've been doing this now for about 23 years. Desensitized. So all you got to do is, whatever those triggers, whatever those moments are that trigger you so much to the point where it causes you to go blank and it causes you to be a terrible communicator, exposure therapy. Lesson number 6, be as big as the room. Here's a lesson that I hope will resonate with all of you. Have you ever met someone who, and we all have a friend like this. I don't know if you've got a friend like this. I've got a friend like this. Where when you take them out and they're just like an excited bunny, and you feel like, no, I can't take you out because you always overdo it with people. And then when they meet people, they overdo it. They're like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And I'm like, oh man, I'm cringing all the way to the depths of my soul. Can you just tone it down? And they just don't have that context of just toning it down. What that person's doing incorrectly is they're being too big for the room. And then some people have the opposite problem where they're being too small. Where again, I've got friends who when they walk into a room, there's 7 people, but they're asking a question, and they'll ask the question like this. They'll just say, oh, do you want to go Korean barbecue tonight? And I'm just thinking, oh, what the? But we don't find those people as I won't be mean, but we don't find them as annoying as the other ones. And I'll be quite, again, calling myself out here. I'm usually the loud one and too much as well. So that I fall in that bucket. But there's the too quiet and there's the too loud. And then you don't really notice the people who are just always good at adjusting that skill of dialing themselves up or dialing themselves down. And I learned this lesson when I was in keynote speaking, because if I'm in front of 10,000 people, I have to bring a much bigger version of myself to that audience, right? Because if I went to a group of 10,000 people and I went, hey everyone, how you all going? Are you all ready for this presentation? 10,000 people would be like, whoa, is he even excited to be here? Whereas if I go out to 10,000 people, I'm like, whoa, look, there's what, 10,000 people in this room. How are you all feeling? Everyone's like, yeah, this is good. But if I did that here, you'll be like, whoa, is Vin on drugs? I think he's on drugs. So all of a sudden, it's too much, right? So the secret, I find the secret sauce to showing up on camera is imagining there's about 10 to 20 people in the room and bring that level of energy as if there's 10 to 20 people. I'm not talking to you like this. I'm like, yo, how's everyone going? How's everyone doing? No, that's a bit too much. But all of a sudden, if I adjust that energy to a room with about 10 to 20 people, all of a sudden now I'm more engaging. That is valuable for showing up live plus showing up on content. So even when I'm filming a content and video, I just look at it as, oh, I've got a group of an audience of about 20, and I bring that level of energy. Be as big as the room. That's the rule that I would share with you. And when you're on camera, the room is about 20 people, 10 to 20. All right? So be as big as the room. That's what I would say. Otherwise, if I brought a, like again, people often ask this question, Vin, how do you talk to people when you're one-on-one? I'm going to be as big as the room. So if we're one-on-one, I dial it down. I don't need to be so intense, right? So all of a sudden, if we're one-on-one, look, the lesson is really simple. The lesson is just be as big as the room. So if we're one-on-one and we're really close to each other, there's no need for me to scream. There's no need for me to talk really loud. So then I dial it back. But then all of a sudden now, if I'm on camera and in front of 200 people, I imagine as if there's 20 people here. And notice how that slight shift in energy hooks you in. And notice how that slight drop in energy, all of a sudden, your engagement just starts to wane just that little bit. But if it was one-on-one, it's totally fine. Okay, that's the intricate lesson right there. Lesson number 7, managing nerves before a presentation or speech. Before I do something like go on an event, I've got, again, a very simple strategy that I follow. First one, I always do Wim Hof breathing. Okay, that's my go-to. Why? Because it calms the body, it calms the mind. First thing I do, 3 cycles of Wim Hof breathing, which takes me about 12 to 15 minutes. Right after that, one of the things that causes people to be terrible communicators is not dealing with nervousness. And nervousness shows up as shaky hands, shaky voice. Why does your voice shake? Well, because your body's shaking, so therefore your voice shakes, right? And your body tends to shake when you have excess levels of adrenaline in your body. So what you want to do is get rid of the excess adrenaline. So how do you get rid of the excess adrenaline? And why does adrenaline start to build up in your body? Well, because when you're in high pressure situations, your body is getting you ready for fight or flight. So when you're in this situation where you need to be ready for fight or flight, it dumps adrenaline into your body. Now you've got excess adrenaline. Now your hands start to shake and they're all, oh my God. No. So what you do is you engage in jumping jacks. And again, they're not called jumping jacks. They're called star jumps. Americans call it jumping jacks. Who the hell's jack? It's called a star jump, mate. So do some star jumps. And as you do some brisk forms of exercise, it gets rid of that adrenaline, right? It gets rid of that adrenaline. And when you get rid of that adrenaline, now you shake less. Now your body is going to shake less. And do you know what that does for you psychologically? It communicates to your brain that you're not nervous. Whereas when you don't get rid of the adrenaline and your hands shake and then your voice shakes, you've got so much stimuli communicating to the brain that you're nervous. Look, your hands are shaking. You're really nervous. Your voice is shaking too. Oh my God, I'm nervous. And now you go into, you believe you're nervous. And therefore now all of a sudden you are nervous. Whereas when you get rid of the adrenaline, it sends less signals to the brain that you're nervous, therefore causing you to feel more confident and competent. So first thing I do, Wim Hof, calm the body, calm the mind. Second thing I do, get rid of the adrenaline, right? So I manage my adrenaline. Third thing I do, now this is a bit unique to me. You get to choose your own, but this is what I do. I love listening to orchestral war music. Oh yeah. Hans Zimmer. This is the eve before the battle. Soldiers are preparing for the war. And I love listening to that music because it's so inspiring. And if you don't use music as a hack to shift your mood, man, you are missing out. Every morning in my household, I play 70s music because 70s music is so happy and good vibes. And I make sure good vibes are being sent into every single family member of my household. And my wife just goes, why do you always have that music on? And then 3 seconds later, she's singing to the songs. She's dancing, she's grooving. My kids are all laughing and happy. Is that by chance? Nope, because I know music moves us. How many times when you were young, when you broke up with someone, and then now you feel sad and you want to feel more sad, so then you start playing, Stop Breaking My Heart and, Unbreak My Heart by Tony Martin. Like you start playing all these sad songs and you play it and then you feel more sad, right? Well, instead of doing that, when I want to feel a certain way, I play certain music that makes me feel a certain way. That's my go-to setup. And then when I'm really feeling nervous, I'll also pair with orchestral war music, watching funny videos that make me laugh. I've got a folder of videos that every time I watch, it makes me laugh. It makes me die laughing, okay? I've got a sick sense of humor, so I'm not going to tell you what that is. I'm not going to share that folder with you. Because if you watch it, you'll be like, I think Vin's a bad person. I won't tell you. We'll keep that a secret. Let's not reveal too much. But yeah, when I watch it, it makes me laugh. And then if I'm laughing, oh my goodness, endorphins, dopamine. I'm not feeling nervous, baby. I'm feeling good. That's my go-to routine. Lesson number 8, building rapport with high-status people. The misconceptions, first of all, is that we look at people who are in a high status position to us as someone who, we put them on a pedestal. And the moment you put them on a pedestal, all of a sudden now, you will feel nervous around them. All of a sudden now, if you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm speaking to this, oh wow, oh no, I've got to, and then all of a sudden now, you're going to come across like a little child and like an idiot. And that's happened to me all the time. When I used to be a keynote speaker and I get to meet CEOs of these billion-dollar companies, I would put these people on the pedestal and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and all of a sudden I've got great communication skills, right? All of a sudden I'm like, oh, hi, how are you got? Why am I doing it? What the frick is happening to me? And all of a sudden I just found myself just kind of shrinking down and speaking like this. And I walked away from that and went, what the hell just happened? And it's because we forget that they're human. So the first thing that I always do anytime I'm around anyone so I don't make a fool of myself, because I recently just met Mark Manson, the guy who wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, right? One of my favorite books. And when I would usually meet people like this, I just become an idiot. Like you fanboy, fangirl, whatever you want to call it around them. And then all of a sudden now you feel silly. So all of a sudden what I do now as a technique, first of all, is I remember that when that person farts, it still stinks. Like in my own mind, I'm like, you know what? When that person farts, it still stinks. They look silly in their pajamas. They're human. They're human. They procrastinate. They doom scroll on their phone. Yeah, they laugh at inappropriate jokes. So the first thing I do is I just humanize them in my own mind. And when I humanize them in my own mind, I now am more calm. Right? I'm now more chilled. And you remember, and trust me, when I fart, smell very, very smelly, disgusting. Sorry to say that about 3 times now already. I know it's very childish. But again, we're all big children. We're all big children. Farts are funny. Let's just admit it. It's funny. So once you kind of humanize them in that way, now you feel less nervous around them. And I always like to say this. This is the lesson I learned in my head that makes me humanize people around me. My mum used to always say this to me. She goes, there's nothing amazing about you, son. But there's something really amazing about the lessons that have made you who you are. So don't let people put you on the pedestal all the time. Make sure you learn as a teacher to put the lessons that have made you who you are on the pedestal. So I never want any of you to put me on the pedestal. And I hope that's why it's so easy for us to connect. Don't put me on the pedestal. Put the lessons that have made me who I am on the pedestal. That's what you do. All right. So then when you've got all of these psychological frameworks in your head, when you meet these people, you're much more calm. Now, how do you connect with them and build rapport very quickly? Storytelling. Because if you learn how to storytell exceptionally well, this is how you build rapport like this. So say, for example, if I'm sitting in a room with a CEO and he wanted to hire me, and I go into that room and I'm doing a job interview now and I need to influence this high stakes situation in this business organization. Like let's say I was trying to sell that CEO on a service or product that I had. So I could go into that and he could ask me questions like, so Vin, why is your product better? I'll be like, oh, well, it's because of product feature. It's reliable. It's going to be something that you can scale. It's going to be something that's cost effective. I could do all of that, right? Or before I do that, I can build rapport with you with a certain strategy. I can storytell. So imagine I did this. Imagine I shared a quick story and I went into this. The CEO is Matthew. Matthew, you're now a CEO. So imagine I did this. I said, oh, hey, Matthew, thanks for taking the time to connect with me today. You know, you may not know this about me. I used to be a magician. And the reason I loved magic, Matthew, is, I mean, if you think about it, what is magic at the end of the day? Magic is just a problem you can't solve. And you see, I love solving problems. That's why I got into magic. It's because I love looking at things from all different perspectives. I love looking at things from this angle, from this angle, from this angle. I have a deep love for problem solving. And one of the reasons why I believe it's going to help you with our team and our service is because we are all problem solvers. We're going to be able to help you solve the problems you're experiencing now in a more time-effective way, in a more cost-efficient way, in a more productive way. Right? We're going to help bring many different perspectives to help you solve the things causing the most pain. That is infinitely more effective than me just going in and saying, oh, I'm just going to, it's more effective, it's more productive. Because now they're going to remember the story and it's going to build rapport. Right? Do you remember when I was in the New York lobby of the hotel, who did I have a conversation with? Do you remember? How many of you remembered it was the window cleaners, the glass cleaners? How many of you remember that? Did you remember that? I used a story to highlight a point. So when I use a story to highlight a point, I now attach the memorable nature of that story to the point that I attached to it. And the point that I attached to it was they're not nervous because they've done it for 25 years. So now you are more likely to remember that lesson because I used a story. So why would I use a story when I'm trying to build rapport with people? Because you are more likely to remember me now because you remember the magic story of me as opposed to the 17 other people who came in to try to sell you the same thing. Most people don't use storytelling. And that's why they become forgettable. Whereas those who use storytelling become way more memorable, and being more memorable leads to a higher conversion rate. But most people don't do that. They don't.
And the final lesson, all the world's a stage.
Vin, why do you call your program stage? I use my program stage because of a quote from Shakespeare who says, all of the world's a stage. And I believe that. All of life is a stage. And you know what's crazy? In this life, you're going to step onto many different stages, playing many different roles. What do I mean? Well, take it from me, for example. This morning when I woke up at 5 o'clock. Why? Because my son likes to wake up early. So the first stage I walk onto and the first role that I play in this life is a father. I'm stepping onto the stage as a father, the stage of fatherhood. Then after that, as I take care of my son during school holidays, I then switch over and make my wife a coffee. She loves it when I make her a coffee, right? So then I step onto the stage as a husband. Then I step into the studio and I step onto the stage as a teacher. In this life, you're going to step up onto many different stages, playing many different roles. And as you improve your communication skills, you're going to elevate how you show up on every stage in every role. And that's why I call you luminaries. Because a luminary, the first definition is an actor or an actress, which makes sense because you're on stage, right? But the second definition of it is far more meaningful to me. And the second definition is this. A luminary is a source of light. You are a source of light. Because I hope that you will use this instrument to spread more love, to spread more kindness, and to spread more compassion. We need this in the world more than ever. That is my call to arms with you. Learn this skill set and achieve all the abundance you desire, achieve all of the career progression you want in this life. But let's use our instrument to spread more love, kindness, and compassion in this life. Master this skill set because the world needs better communicators.
Well, that was bloody inspiring, wasn't it? Listen, don't forget, I've got the free 2-hour training down below to help you speak in a way so that people will listen. And if you want access to that, just click the link in the description. Bye for real this time.